foundation of what Zen Times is going to be all about and what you can expect. Um, and as I said, it's um, going to be a mini retreat, not something that's going to take up a whole weekend or what have you. Um, but I want to cover some basics here and then end up with a basic kind of. So before we start, I want to start out with the bowl and just allow yourself to listen to the tone and follow the tone into a deeper state of quiet and calm. And as the bowl quiets and drifts back into silence, we come into a more quiet space for ourselves. Well, welcome. For those of us in the La Crosse Driftless region, we went through a rather interesting time last night with rather significant storms and outages and what have you, which prevented Zen Times from starting uh, last night. So we will uh, resume tonight. So welcome to all of you. And there are a couple of things I want to start out with. I want to make a couple of things perfectly clear. I'm not a Zen Roshi. I'm not a Zen teacher or what have you. I'm somebody who has practiced. My practice was Zen for decades and have come to being able to embrace some understandings that have been not only helpful for myself, but I have seen been helpful for others. And I want Zen Times to be a time where we can explore some of those kinds of things. Now, yes, Zen has its roots in Buddhism, um, and there are a great number of very important kind of aspects of Zen Buddhism that are very, very rich in tradition and what have you. Um, but this time will be a time for us to really distill out what exactly does Zen mean and how can it be helpful to us in our day-to-day lives to make it um, less involved in ritual and what have you, and more involved with how to make it relevant and useful um, as we move through the moments of our lives. Um, so I want to make perfectly clear, you know, I'm not, as I said, a sensei or a roshi or what have you, but I do want to use Zen as a platform because the purpose of, of working with the idea of Zen is twofold. One is Zen is a method. Yes, it has its roots in a very traditional Buddhist practice, but outside of that, it is clearly a method of being able to help us um, expand and deepen our spiritual practice. Zen, in its pure sense, is not really attached to any um, religious tradition, although it does have its roots in Buddhism, it can be very useful for any of us that are embracing the importance of our own spiritual development and our spiritual growth in whatever tradition we hold, because Zen can be very practical in that kind of sense. So Zen is a method that helps us achieve the second aspect of Zen, and that is perspective. Zen helps things much more clearly so that we relinquish moving through our lives from a place of fear and reactiveness. It allows us to be able to move with greater ease, expressing a deeper sense of patience and openness and compassion. Um, so as I use the term Zen, I'm using it in a more global sense and not so much attached to the traditions and what have you of Zen Buddhism, but more how Zen can be a practical part of our day-to-day lives. Um, so when we look at Zen as a method, it's something that we connect to, um, and and work through. And as we move through Zen times in the coming months and beyond, this is going to be an opportunity for you to apply the teachings of many of the great wisdom masters of a variety of different traditions, so that you're going to be able to find that sense of uh, meaningful application for what Zen times can help you with. One thing that attracted me to the Buddhist path was it starts out with the idea that we are all um, okay just the way we are. It doesn't start out from a place of deficiency or wrongness or badness. It starts out from a place of in a place of being okay. So much of what we go through we in our lives leaves us with a feeling of not being good enough. Zen helps us step back from that and consider the idea that perhaps you're a whole lot more okay than you've ever given yourself credit for. That you are already in a state of good enoughness. And so we can really begin to start from a place of enhancing our innate goodness rather than trying to correct our innate badness. So one of the things that I really want to stress through these times and encourage you to work with in between our sessions is this whole idea of embracing that we can be okay the way we are and not have to use our practice as a way of correcting a sense of not okayness. So one of the things that we will be working with over and over and over again is Zen as being a method of reminding ourselves of our inherent goodness. Yes, we've all made mistakes. Yes, we all have regrets. Yes, we can look back and say, well, if I knew then what I knew now, things would be different, or I would do things differently, or I would see things differently. We all have that. And so it isn't something that we hang up on in terms of saying, well, because of how I was, it defines how I am. And one of the things that I learned in my practice is this whole idea of understanding and appreciating that we are imperfect beings. We're messy. We don't do things right. We make mistakes. And to bring that awareness back to, but how am I right now in my next breath? how can I begin again in my next breath? How can I begin to reconnect with my inherent goodness, my inherent divine nature, however you define it? You know, it's not going to be something that I'm going to define for you. It's not going to be, um, um, you should do this or you should do that, or I have 10 steps for you to make things better or whatever. It's going to be for you to reconnect and remind yourself in a very basic sense of your inherent goodness. And over and over again, we're going to draw from the wisdom of a variety of different wisdom masters to remind ourselves, come back home, come back here. This is where it all starts. In our innate sense of being and remembering, reminding in a very important and elemental sense what what we are as beings. So when we really look at how we view ourselves, how do we really begin to embrace um, that kind of goodness? So Zen Times is going to be a time where we're not going to spend a lot of time. It's going to be a half hour or so. Um, and what I hope to do is take a very small piece of wisdom for us to consider, to really look at, take the time and consider and pause and reflect on that piece. And each session that we will have a particular focus on what that will be. But to really take a look at it, not in terms of large, broad academic or theological considerations, but basically, what does this one piece of wisdom mean? To take some time and consider it, and then take that time and drop it into the pond of our lives. Watch the ripples and see what begins to happen as we hold it deeply and intently, and watch how it begins to develop a sense of ripples in a variety of areas of our lives. So we have that sense of being able to um, remember that so many, especially these days right now, with such uprest and distress and pain and anguish. What can we consider that makes what we can do more important and more meaningful from a deeper kind of place? So um, we're going to spend some time, a lot of time through Zen Times to um, kinds of things and what is meaningful for us. Throughout our times, if there are things that you would like to focus on, if there are some things you'd like me to address and I feel capable of doing so, please feel free to um, text me through or message me through the Zen Times page or what have you. If there's some things that you would like to know in more detail, I'd be happy to include those kinds of things for your consideration. Um, so that's one of the reasons why, or many of the reasons why I considered using this as Zen Times, because it's this whole idea of reminding, of coming back home and reclaiming a perspective. Because right now, our perspective is full of opinions and judgments and conflicts and um, people pitting their ideas against each other. And you can see this on the internet and what have you, that this is the way I think and this is the way I think. And we've lost our sense of coming home. We've lost our sense of being able to connect in a way that um, removes that sense of uncertainty in our lives. Now, one of the things before I see we have about 10 minutes left, I want to address for tonight and then follow up in the next session and perhaps the session after that is this whole idea of separateness. When we view ourselves as separate from the experience that holds us, that surrounds us, we begin to see our place in the world as a place of threat. That if I am different than you, for whatever reason, gender, race, socioeconomic, political, doesn't matter. But if I see you as something different, then what happens is I can't begin to respond to you with a greater sense of compassion. And so this idea of separateness, or as is talked about in the Buddhist literature, duality, um, sets us up to feel as though we have to constantly be on guard and constantly have to wonder where is the next threat coming from. And I want to talk a little bit about that today and follow up with it in the following sessions because I think it is really important and especially important now. All we have to do, is look at the news and see how people are reacting to each other out of fear and threat, um, and not embracing each other in terms of understanding a deeper sense of um, interbeing, interconnectedness. So I want to talk about, looking at seeing ourselves as a part of. We are a part of all of this. We are not apart from it. And I'm not just talking about the stuff on the news. I'm talking about our place of being in the sense of creation and what that holds for us. And being able to recognize that what is out there is not separate from what is here. We as this being in this body, in this spirit, the soul, this heart, is a direct expression of shall we call it the larger being, that being that this, whatever you want to call it, you can call it God or Buddha nature, or the Tao, or whatever. What we call it ultimately limits it. So it really doesn't have a name that can be very useful. So one of the things that's important is really begin to look at how is it that um, we cultivate this sense of separateness, of duality that draws us off our path, that um, interferes with our ability to express our divine nature in a more deep and meaningful kind of way. So, one of the things I'd like to do is to offer you your first little experience here. Encourage you to practice at least one time between tonight and the next time we meet in 2 weeks. Um, Preferably more, because as with anything, practice deepens our sense of spirituality, our sense of journey. Um, and it's a brief but oftentimes not so easy little exercise. So what I would invite you to do right now is just take a moment and be quiet. Just settle in, take a nice deep breath in through the nose, out through the mouth, and just follow that out breath until it's already done in its completion, and rest there. Take a deep breath in and then release. Let go and follow that breath all the way back down to a place of calm. Take a deep breath in, and one more time, just follow that breath all the way down to its completion. And just rest there in a place of calm before taking your next in breath. And the purpose of this meditation is for us to be able to become more and more familiar with the labels, the judgments, the opinions, the reactions that set up our sense of separateness from who we are in the place of our present experience. Because we all have our unique little ways of following our opinions, our thinking, our judgments, our opinions. We all have our own unique and learned ways of mistaking all of that chatter and the important piece is that all of those opinions, judgments, ideas, thoughts serve to just separate us, not only from one another, but from our own essential being. So just take a moment and think about the events of your day today. And one of the things I would invite you to do is to ask yourself this. If I didn't have an opinion about this, if I didn't judge this, if I didn't label this, what would it be? So, for example, if I didn't have an opinion about what I saw on the news, and I let that opinion go, what would that be? If I didn't have a reaction to that slow driver ahead of us, what would that experience be? If I didn't judge myself based on my weight or my intelligence or anything else, if I let all of that go, then what would it be? So I'd like you to just sit for a few moments and consider this. If I didn't follow my judgments, my opinions, my labels, my reactions, if I didn't follow them, what would be left? And just consider this for a few moments now. If I didn't follow my judging mind, what would my experience be? And so take a few moments now and take a deep breath. And what I would invite you to do over the next couple of weeks is take some time, several times during the next couple of weeks, and set aside a period of time, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and dedicate that period of time to asking yourself this over and over and over again. When you're having a reaction, when you're having a judgment, an opinion that separates you, that creates that sense of duality, that I am here and all that is out there, and I have to guard myself against that. When you find yourself in your own unique kind of way doing that kind of separation, watch it, smile, and then ask yourself, if I wasn't judging this, what would this particular experience be? If I wasn't opinionating about this experience, what would it be? If I wasn't reacting against and becoming aggressive against this experience, what would it be? And I would encourage you to keep a journal, whether it's a written journal or a computer journal, doesn't really matter. As you practice this, to notice what begins to happen. This is an example of taking a very small piece of the wisdom teachings and dropping it into the pond of your life. And just watching as you practice this, what ripples begin to spread throughout your life and what begins to happen with that. So if, as we wind up here right now, if any of you have any questions, I can scroll through the things that are coming up and try to answer them. If you have any other questions, you can message me through the Zen Times website. I'd be happy to answer them. But practice this, and we will continue to expand on this idea of learning how to come back home and not get drawn away into the world of judgment and reaction and fear-based being. Have a broader and deeper sense of perspective of our place in it all. So I want to thank you all for coming. Our time is a little bit up here. Again, if there are any questions, feel free to type them in on the screen or message me through the Zen Times site. So this is our first episode. Looking forward to many more coming up. Our next one will be 2 weeks from today. 2 weeks from yesterday, barring any kind of storms or what have you. So it will be 2 weeks from yesterday, 7 o'clock, same time and same location. So thank you very much for joining in. Feel free next time to enjoy our time with Zen Times. So I will wait a few moments to see if there are any questions that I might be able to answer at this point. And if they're not, then we will wait until a couple of weeks. So I will wait a few moments here, and I will turn the music back on so we can enjoy some of that. And as we progress through all of this, each week, each session, I should say, will be an expansion of the previous one. I will send some things out on the Zen Times website to give you an idea for our next edition of Zen Times, and to give you some readings. I might post some videos. Um, and so that you can continue to work on this. This isn't just a time of checking in here and going back into your lives, but taking things back into your lives that are useful and meaningful. So keep checking in, and I will have some things on the site for reading, for some videos that will help with moving us along. So I will sound the bowl as a time for us to bring this to a close. So until the next time, live with ease, and we will see you then.